introduce the meeting and do the overview slides. And if the answer is not med, then you can leave the room.
Yeah. Okay, start. Yes, I think let's start the meeting. Good afternoon, everyone, and also good morning, good evening for the online participants. We are Peng, Adrian, and Matt as the CAT chairs, and our secretary, Cheng Li, and Jim is our AD. So first is a note well. We encourage that everyone get familiar with it, though you will heard you will heard it in every working groups meeting, but it's really important about the points such as a patent, the IPR disclosure process, and to be applied to your colleagues and partners in our meeting, and the audio, video, and the photographic records of the meetings may be made public. So we are also asked by the IESG to emphasize this point, and please remind that we are individuals to contribute to the work. So now we have 3 chairs as a short-term measure until the NOMCOM have made their choice. So we may get it by the end of the year, and hopefully we will get a good results. And we are using the Meet Echo queue control. You can also use chat box to to comments if the queue is closed. And the note is taken by Cheng Li as usual, but we hope everyone could help him and check your own comments correctly. So to make sure to sign into the Meet Echo, even if you are on site, if you want to get in the queue, please also use the Meet Echo and keep the audio and the video off at all the times. So the important thing about our milestones, we just add 2 milestones about the CAT metrics. So we will adopt a CAT metric in the following work, and all the drafts we will it post to them in the data tracker, and please remind to discuss them on the list first. One of the really important work for this meeting, we are going to focus on some individual drafts to see if they are overlap or in the charter in our working group. So here's the meeting goals. I think, Matt, you may want to emphasize about it.
Yes. So basically, I would say the goal that we wanted to achieve for this meeting. So basically, the purpose is to have the work we are doing here in CATS more focused. So that three items in which we will emphasize. The first one is, I think it's we were discussing the use cases. It's several meetings right now. So, but still, we do see some new internet drafts proposed by many of the participants about the use cases, but there is no understanding whether what is currently proposed there in this individual draft is overlapping what we have in the adopted document. So there is a work that we invited the authors of some of this document to do and to coordinate with the editors of the use cases draft to do that assessment and then to report to the working group. So the purpose is to abandon or to merge with the, I would say, main use case document, because there will be only one use case document. The second one is related to the requirements. There is a bunch of requirements that are currently in the use cases draft. The rationale, the reasoning for them may not be that clear for everyone. So the purpose here is to provide that clarification to the working group and hopefully to have the discussion about those, because these requirements will really be will inform us when it comes to elaborating on the framework document itself. The third one is about the metrics. We used to have multiple documents again on this area, but with not that the focus that we would expect from as chairs. So we kindly asked or requested the groups that who are, I would say, driving those documents to talk together and to propose a working for us here so that we can discuss and make some progress. So basically, this is the main objective you wanted for today.
Okay, thanks, Matt. And here's today's agenda. We will have 45 minutes for the use case and 15 minutes for the framework and also 45 minutes for the metric discussion. Then if the time permits, we will have some flash teasers about individual drafts. So for the teasers, please remind to have a quick introduction to your draft and the presenters to justify how their document fits working group charter. And also for others participants, if you want to submit the individual draft, please read the charter first. And items that are not covered by the charter won't be guaranteed slots in the future meeting. Please remember that. And we will first work on the working group items. And okay, here's a detailed agenda. Any comments on this? Okay, let's go into the agenda. First is the use case. Kohan, please.
Hi everyone. Thanks, many thanks for chairs for the introduction. So I will quickly sync with the working group for the recent update of the existing working group document use cases and requirements, and then I will spend some time to clarify the relationship between the existing use cases and the requirements. Then I will let Louis and Tianji and also Paul to introduce their individual documents on the use cases and requirements. So this is the overall arrangement of the first session. So so first about the authors notification that there are currently 5 co-authors of this draft. Me and Louis from Telefonica, Hangshi from Huawei, and Shuai Zhang from China Unicom, and Qing An from Alibaba Cloud Group. And then Dirk and after negotiation, and Dirk and Izhou, the previous co-author of the draft, volunteered to be removed to the contributor list. And many thanks for their contributions. So next slide, please. So the basic updates from the revision 03 to the current version is based is primarily on the terminologies, and also we add some use case analysis in the appendix because we have done some tests in China mobile backbone networks and edge network on CDN test analysis, and then some ongoing work like cloud rendering test analysis will be added into the next revision, and also we will update the requirements on like matrix will also be added to the 05 version. So in terms of the terminology, so basically the current revision is to synchronize with the other working group document, the framework document, and we have deleted some redundant terms, and also but there is only one issue on the definition of computing. What is computing service, which I have sent some previous discussion on the mails, but I think there still haven't got an consensus, which I want to present to today. So next slide, please. So previously we have in the current version of the framework document, we has like a general description on what is a computing service. So it defined like an offering that is made available by provided by orchestrating a set of computing resource. So some of the authors and also there is previous discussion might think the definition is a bit general. So I want to propose to the working group today that we have a previous definition in 03 version. So we have added some complementary explanation that so computing service for 1.1 is it is different from the service because service is based on packet, while computing service is based on transaction, and the application content is exposed within a computing service. And the point two is that both service and computing service can be on path and or on endpoint, depending on the service logic or the computing service logic. So there might be some difference between service and computing service, which I wanted to trigger the discussion in the list. So maybe if you have some comments, you can raise in the open discussion session. Next slide, please. So here is a basic analysis on the test we have done in China Mobile's backbone network in the past 2 to 3 months. Here is a use case on CDN. We tested based on 4K videos delivery on the edge network of China Mobile. So here is some primary metrics we want to mention. Primarily is based on that it's delay, and also on compute side, the primary metric are like average server load and the average utilization and the I/O bandwidth on each site. And also on network side, the primary matrix link utilization and packet loss rate will be very important to the traffic steering of selection and selecting instance. So we have, like the figures listed here, we have deployed the network in 2 provinces in China in a very large scale network. And next slide, please.
Daniel, you have a question?
Daniel, just a quick comment about the terminology of a computing service. I think the original terminology definition of computing service is clear enough. It would be quite complex if we get kind of transactions and applications involved, because under the context of CAST framework, computing services is what the definition defines.
Okay, thank you. So maybe we'll move on. So, okay, next slide, please. Okay, here's a very basic analysis on the test result of our deployment of the CDN 4K videos in 2 provinces. So basically, we have divided into 2 categories of CDN service. One is CDN to business. So it's primarily for internet TV, like for example, like Netflix and YouTube. And then the CDN to customers is based on, you will place a set-top box in your home, and then you can get the content from a remote CDN server. So primary difference is here that for the scenario CDN to B business, so it will have some when the client is get the CDN server from the DNS resolver, it will get several VIPs. But for CDN to C scenario, it will only get 1 VIP from the DNS resolver. So we have basically summarized some of the CAST benefits for the typical use cases. As we know that CDN will, store some contents in the local server at the edge. So typically CDN might not be a appropriate use case for CAST, but in this use case, we still find some benefits it have. The first one is it has a better quality recovery when the network and compute status drops. So for example, there is we have overall tested and get some quantitative result. For example, that the default recovery duration of the normal CDN service is about 600 seconds, because it needs when it trigger to ask for a new VIP. But CAST solution can reduce it to be 15 seconds. And then for the CAS solution, it will have better load balancing because the CAS can reduce a difference of the utilization rate of multiple service instances, so like to 5% compared to the previous CDN load balancer. And then it can improve the system capacity utilization under the same service capability. That means the CAS can serve more users and clients. So based on this, it can suggest the DNS resolver, the caching time of the DNS can be extended to lower the system overhead. And then next slide, please. Yes, so the previous is the primary update of the existing working group document. We have some other ongoing tests like clock rendering, and we have got some good results. So those will be updated in the next version. So next session will be very detailed clarification on the relevance of the existing use cases and requirements, because there are some other IDs want to show if they will raise new requirements to the working group document. So yeah. So do you want to ask questions in here?
Okay. Sorry, go on.
Okay. So yes, I think there was a question in the queue.
John?
Okay, thanks.
John from FutureWay.
Yeah.
I had a question about on page, where you request mobility. Do you support mobility also in these scenarios that you're showing?
You mean, sorry, you mean CDN use cases or?
Yeah. I see on the page 7 that you do say mobility, and I was wondering how that mobility is addressed. Are you using any cast?
Sorry, I think I haven't presented this page. Maybe a question after this. Thank you. Okay. Great. So go on, maybe.
Go on.
Okay. So we think that so we have several requirements listed in section 5. So first, primary requirement is about service instance selection. So there are 5 use cases in CATS, like computing aware AR and VR, and internet transportation, intelligent transportation, sorry, and digital twin, SD-WAN, and AI large model inference. So we have summarized some property of these use cases from different aspects, like they all consume compute resources and network resources, and also there are some important performance indicators like low latency and high throughput that are very important in CAS traffic steering. And then all of these different use cases are distributed, deployed, and multi-site deployment, and they may be virtualized. And then in some cases, the mobility may exist, for example, in the intelligent transportation. So we can see that all of this, there are some common aspects in these different use cases. So next slide, please, is about the explanation of the use cases and how they match with the requirements. So we have seen that there are already 5 requirements. The first one is about discovering and resolving of a service ID, and then it's about mapping methods and to quickly selecting the instance. Then R3 is about timeout. It should provide a timeout limitation for selecting the instance. And then R4 and R5 is about the availability of the service instance. So I think to illustrate that all of these 5 use cases, they follow the distributed pattern and the multi-site service deployment. So R1 must be retained. But R2 and R3 are for latency sensitive applications. So except for SD-WAN scenario, other use cases all have strong requirements in latency. So the latency is also a quite important requirement. And also it will impact we will define a metric like delay. And R4 and R5 is about serviceability, which is also basic requirement for any distributed application. Next slide, please. So, but there are also some discussions that maybe, so I want to present to the working group, so it might improve the current requirement. For example, like both R1 and R2 mentions about mapping. One is about mapping the ID to the address, and the other about like mapping the address to a specific instance. So I'm thinking that maybe is there any improvement on combining the R1 and R2, and also as mentioned in R2, there is like mentioned quick selection, but quick is not a good expression, so there is still some improvement. And R5 seems too specific, not all use cases have service contention problems, so maybe we can improve on R4 and R5. And then the other improvement is on the specific use case on computing-aware digital twin, because computing-aware digital twin seems a representative, latency-sensitive distributed industrial application which have very high reliability requirements. So, and also the current description on the storage resources are not, it needs further explanation. So we are thinking that if the computing-aware digital twin is appropriate in the use case to be listed in this document. So if you have some very good comment, please discuss here or in the list. Next slide, please.
Jeffrey, please.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for the moment to comment. So one of the things I'd request adding to the requirements is for any specific instantiating technology that considerations about consistency and forwarding are respected. The motivation for this comment is a very specific example that has discussion on IDR is the 5G metadata draft, which I realize is not a CATS draft specifically, but CATS will have exactly the same considerations. In BGP, and this is a technology-specific comment, but I think it applies maybe more generally elsewhere. If you have inconsistent route selection, you can end up with forwarding loops, because these are things. These are decisions that may be happening on a distributed basis based on the CATS data that's being passed around. If you come to an inconsistent decision, and you end up with forwarding loops, that's obviously very bad. So the requirement that says be considerate about how forwarding is impacted by these decisions is probably good R6.
Okay, thanks. So I understand that your comments is about you mentioned about one of the possible CATS solution, right? So yes, it's very good from your comment. Maybe we can have some more discussion in the next coming session. So because of the limited time. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The aspect of the service affinity is not only for CAT, I think maybe others will also bring the questions. So, but the working group now don't really have also some directions or detailed discussions about it. So if you want to work on this, please also remind Jeffrey's comments. You can also bring them to other related working groups. All right. Okay, please go on.
Okay. So next slide, please. So next part is the requirements more on the matrix. The definition of the matrix. That means the current section 5.2, 5.3, and 5.4. So it's about matrix definition and matrix distribution. So I give overall like a closed loop and also life cycle of from how we define this matrix to how we use this matrix, because the matrix, when we need to mention about the collection way of this matrix, and then for CAS component, you need to understand how it can select this matrix, and then when the matrix is selected, it will be notified and distributed to CAS nodes, and then there might be in the service assurance or there might be matrix assessment to understand how the matrix behaves. Is it good for the path selection? And then there might be some update for the matrix for further because the matrix might be dynamic and it will be changed over time, and it will influence the overall traffic steering. So here are some current requirements. The current requirements all mentioned about you need to define both compute and network matrix, and also you mentioned about matrix collection, matrix distribution, like matrix selection, like aggregating the matrix, and then some further like you need some like define a matrix, need some like a compute resource model to define the matrix. So basically, current requirements cover most of these major boxes of the matrix, the use of matrix. But like how to update matrix, if we should assess matrix, is still not covered in the existing requirements. So next slide, please. So authors have raised, pull request in GitHub. Also, I have previously sent an email to the working group list. So maybe there are some new requirements. And also there will be in the upcoming session specific on CAS matrix definition, I will explain in more details. So next one, please.
Got some in the Jody, please. If you want to comment down.
Hi, yeah, Jordi from Qualcomm. Thanks, Kehan. Yeah, I appreciate the work on the metrics. I think it's very relevant. So I have questions, a few questions, and probably some of this can be taken offline. I'm sure we can have conversations because we're already doing that for metrics and such. But for instance, I have questions about how, for instance, RC, how is it phrased, or what is the actual meaning of requirement 6? And then, for instance, requirement 7, it talks about including network metrics. Is there like the dual to that, which would be the compute metrics, right? So it's so on R6, for instance, what would be the meaning of R6? Make sure I understand.
I think R6 is a very basic and also like a hat to cover all of these requirements. So you need to, it's like a prerequisite for you use matrix. So the prerequisite is you need to define this matrix. So yes, I think this is a very basis of all of the other matrix related requirements. So,
okay,
yeah.
got it. So it's kind of like an umbrella requirement. Yeah. Yeah, we can discuss. It talks about compute capabilities and resources. So maybe there's a way to rephrase this that it's that we can align with that.
Yeah.
And then I made a comment in the pull request yesterday about the idea,
Resource model, right?
Yeah, about the idea of incorporating the notion of maybe resource model. We can come up with a good name, but resource model as being something that we all, and the necessity to agree on resource model, not so much on the actual metrics, which can be implementation specific, but on the necessity to agree on that notion of resource model. And then within that, 3 requirements could be that the resource model must be able to be implementable in an interoperable manner, so solution independent, that it must be scalable, meaning that you have to be able to work at different levels. And if you want like something that is more real-time oriented, that you want some lower granularity metrics maybe, or the and thirdly, usefulness, that they must be useful, that the metrics or the model itself must be useful. Yeah, maybe those are some of the things that we could incorporate into the requirements.
Yeah. Thank you for a complimentary comment. Yeah, thank you.
So, Daniel.
Yeah, actually, it would be rare for us to take into the raw data, particularly the raw metrics of service, into the decision process of CAS traffic steering. So I would suggest the requirements should include the normalization of service metric, which could be aligned better with the network metric, something like that. I believe your presentation next would also mention that.
Yeah. But one comment is that will normalization be kind of solution specific, because we want the requirement not to be solution specific. So I'm not sure, because the normalization is it's just one way. You collect the data. You might collect raw data. You might collect raw normalized data. So I'm not sure, because not all the solution is being, is haven't not been put in the milestone of CAS. So all of the solutions are all progressing. So I'm not sure the normalization will be a must choice for all cases. So think about that. So we can talk about that in the
Agree,
list.
agree. We don't have to put it as the master item. We it will be better to make it as an option.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
You can bring it to the meeting list.
Okay.
Okay, John.
Thank you. John?
Yeah.
The question about mobility, I think the draft talks about mobility of the client and using a whole bunch of metrics to select the right instance
Yes.
and all that. So considering that a stateful service, if you move that service, how will the right instance be selected after the mobility?
Okay. So I think we also have an use case on the internet vehicles in the appendix. We have done some tests because in the mobility scenario, you need to either, for example, the car is moving, it needs to understand the context, right? Located in previous edge site, and then move the context to another service instance. So there might be some aspect to think about and problem to solve in these mobile specific use cases.
I'm thinking specifically about a stateful service.
Stateful, yes,
Yes,
sure.
that's when the trouble
So,
is.
but if you want to put stateful in the requirement, it might fit for all other use cases. So I'm not sure. So yeah, we can leave that to the working group discussion. Okay, thank you. So yeah, we can go on for maybe the next part. So the next part on the requirements primarily on service instance affinity. So we can see that all of the 5 use cases need to ensure service instance affinity, but from different aspects. For example, in terms of computing aware AR, VR, digital twin, and also SD-WAN, and ensure and guarantee the cost and the reliability. And also in terms of the AI, large language model inference, it will need guarantee the consistent and correct inference result. And for intelligent transportation, just we talked about it's a mobility scenario. So the mobile client side will require reliable transfer of service state and the context between edge sites. So we have some 5 requirements here. So R15 and R6 is about you need to maintain we make instance affinity a must choice here, and then R17 and R8 is to keep avoid some too much state, either maintaining in the network nodes or maintaining in the client side is must avoid that avoid that. And then R19 should support the UE and the service instance mobility. So next slide, please. Next slide is about some improvements to be proposed working group for some discussion. So R15 and R16 all about some overlap between the instance affinity. And then R17, so it basically R17 and R18 are all provide some requirement and mechanism to protect network nodes and client nodes. And R19 seems not a requirement within CAT's scope because I'm not sure if we should manage support UE and the service instance mobility. So we can maybe want to propose this question to the working group. Any questions for this part? Service instance affinity?
So, Ketan, please.
Ketan Dalaulikar, Cisco. Actually, I found myself logged out. My question was for the slide number 11, but I can come back to it later if that's better.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. So this is about metrics related requirement. I wanted to check and discuss if you're calling out metric related requirements from routing protocols perspective.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Right? So what is appropriate to be carried or conveyed in routing protocol? I'm assuming that at some point, will come into routing protocols. From the metric definition, and there is a presentation later on, we can discuss more.
Yeah.
But what is appropriate to be carried, how fast they can change, and routing stability related aspects. If you could capture them in the requirements document, they would probably guide the metric document that is coming up.
Yeah, you mean we need to, enrich and the description on the matrix and its impact on the routing
Yes.
protocols, right?
Stability, oscillation,
okay.
all of those
All right.
topics.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for a comment. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, next, Paul.
Okay, this is Paul Zhang from SKKU. So I have two questions. The first question is next slide, affinity. So can you clarify what is instance affinity? So can you clarify that definition?
Yes, I think there was some previous discussion in the meetings, like several meetings ago in the mailing list. So I think like the co-authors, they want to use a simple term like instance affinity to representing like session affinity, service affinity. So all of this, they think the final thing you want to select is the instance, right? So they want to use instance affinity to cover all of the other terms.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Next question is the intelligent transportation use cases. So we needed to clarify requirement. So because autonomous driving scenario case, so the vehicles can talk to each other. Also, it can get help from edge server, because in the video, data will be uploaded into edge server, analyzed using machine learning to detect obstacle or some person or dangerous situation. So that case, it takes the computing resource, also the network delay, right? But remember, the vehicle is moving fast along the trajectory, right? So my suggestion is in order to support the ITS, we needed to plan the resource allocation in advance, like proactive resource allocation based on that the object movement. If reactive case, maybe it is too late to support the safe driving. So we needed to consider reactive or the proactive resource allocation to meet the required compute and network some quality of service. That is my comment.
So I want to make sure that you mean the proactive.
Paul, I think you will have your own part about
Okay,
this.
sorry.
So you can, because we all have time.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
please.
thank you.
Okay, so yeah.
Okay, so we also have three individual.
I think we have one slide.
No.
Next.
Yeah.
And
Is that one?
yes,
This one.
the final requirement is about preserve communication confidentiality. So I think this is important, and we don't have too many requirements, but here we must preserve the confidentiality of the communication between end users and also the service provider, like the instance. So by minimizing exposure of user relevant information. So I think it is a must choice that has been agreed by all the co-authors, and we haven't received some issues from on this requirement. So if you have any other complementary requirement, you can send it to the list. So okay. Next, I think is from other IDs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have three individual draft for the use case. So first one, Louis. So tell me if you want. Any question? Sorry.
Cheng Li from Huawei. So after reading the requirement and use case drafts, I think that is really helpful, especially considering like a lot of people want to contribute to the draft. So I think we might consider, what if we can publish it as an informational RFC maybe we can consider this. Yeah, personal opinion. Thank you.
We can consider anything. I was really struck by the number of comments during that part of the presentation about the requirements and what if and so on, and thinking if everybody who made one of those comments today was to turn that into a thread on the list discussing the requirements, we might move that document forward much more substantially.
Yes, thank you. And another reason is that may encourage the others and contributors to work harder. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Louis, go ahead.
Thank you. Next, please. And next, please. Yeah, this particular case enters into the problem space of how to implement the interplay between external system management systems that could be the ones of ORAN with the CATS entities, right? So chairs asked us to summarize quickly what could be the differential points of these other individual drafts. So we'll go directly to the point. So here in this particular case, for those that are not familiar with the ORAN, with the radio functional split, so basically the radio functionality of the baseband units are separated in different entities. The RU, which is the antenna, basically. So having the physical radio signal, taking the physical radio signal up to the DU, that is distributed unit, that somehow process the real-time or perform the real-time processing of that radio signal, and then deliver the information to the centralized unit, the CU, which completes the overall processing of the radio signal. So going up to the point of what is unique, or what we consider this unique in this case, essentially we have, I will start from the bottom part. So essentially, ORAN already identifies some specific requirements. Some of them are already probably covered in the use case requirements, that as could be maybe the memory or the CPU average utilization, but some others are not yet covered, as could be the energy consumption. The point here is that ORAN is delivering their own specs, so probably along the time there could be some evolution in that direction, and probably other requirements could come. Let me now go to the first point, the upper point. So what is unique also here is there is a uniqueness as well, not only on the requirements part, but also on the problem space. This interaction between the ORAN management entities and what could be IETF defined entities. So here the point would be that we would require to have to support in CAT entities, maybe the CPS, the path selector, and so some interface for interacting with the management part from ORAN. The ORAN entities will decide what could be the CU to be selected, so that the association between DU and CU could vary along the time, and we need some interplay with the CATS entities for performing such, let's say, such change of association along the time. Next, please. Probably here is more evident what could be the differential point from the problem space aspect. So it would be basically the definition of that interface between the ORAN SMO and the Transport Network Manager that is expected to be, let's say, implemented by using or by leveraging on IETF-based solutions. So the ORAN SMO, as said, is the entity that manage and handle the association between the DU and CU. So this is from the radio perspective, radio service perspective point of view. But also we have another entity in ORAN, which is called OCloud, which is the one managing the virtualized infrastructure. So it will be the one in charge of handling over the allocation of resources and basically reporting that usage. So just for finishing here, we think that precisely for covering this particularity would be maybe convenient to have a separate document for this, because it's not only about the requirements, but also about the definition of that interface for interplaying between a management system from different domains, from different SDOs. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Okay. Luis? Yeah, so if I understand you, Wes, what you are saying to us is that you prefer to maintain your document?
I would prefer to have an standalone document, because it's not only about the requirements, but also about the definition of that interface. So somehow in that requirement, we could justify the need of this interface, maybe remove the part of the requirements even to the use case and requirements, but maybe concentrating here on the definition of this interface.
Okay, so I think at least from where I sit, I think that it would be better if you can extract, I would say, the requirement that can be usable in the current draft we are having there. If you prefer to maintain your, I would say, the other part that can be just an individual draft that you can maintain, it's up to you. But I don't think that's this is currently one of the priorities for us to have that kind of content, I would say, adopted in the working group. So yeah, please do the merge that is worth, and help us to move forward the use cases draft.
Just a small comment regarding the adoption that you have mentioned. Adoption could be facilitated as well, all the liaison with the ORAN, and so if we want to have let's say a formal definition of the interface. So I know that this is another story, but just to comment on that. Thank you.
Tianji?
Thank you, Luis. Actually, Luis has.
You need to be quick.
Yeah, I'll be quick because Luis has already given very good points about the actions between the SDOs here. Because this case, in his case, is about the ORAN and IETF. The two SDOs here is about another SDO from the 3GPP. Can you go to the next one? This one. This one is the real case that being standardized by the 3GPP is regarding enhanced edge computing. So I try to give a quick on the description about how it works. There is one function called application function in the shaded box. Well, it's the starting point of the green and red dotted lines there. This is like application function that provided that's going to situated in the ASP application service function. It's going to provide like service requirement policy, all kind of the things like that can be sent through either the trusted or untrusted paths, and then go to the PCF that is going for the policy control and charging part, and then which will generate the policy rules sent to the SMF is like a session management, and then send to the UPF there. The UPF is really important. Here it's like a node. It's going to behave like both ingress and egress for the CAS domain. So to make it more associated with the CAS, and then now it started because, the SMF can instruct the UPF to do, here, but on the left, in that big circle, it's going to have a bunch of UPFs. So basically, the SMF can, based on the CAS matrix, to do the UPF selection on and also reselection. Reselection means along the operation, and then when the runtime of the network is changed, and then it can instruct for the UPF reselection. On the right hand side is the EAS part. It's like more like a service instances. It's called the edge application servers. So the things like this is like a dynamic. The UPF can, based on the rule sent from the PCF SMF, can do the measurement in dynamic way here. So it's by leveraging the IETF technologies here, list as SMP, TWAMP, OWAMP, and then whenever the UPF got those information collection back, it can expose those information to SMF for the policy control. So if you look at the things here, it's like a closed loop. Can you go to here? I'm already done with the description. Can you go to the next one? Yeah, for the add-on and the uniqueness for the use cases. The first one is a closed loop. Well, here I think the Kahan has give a picture about whenever you get the matrix in a dynamic way, and then how you're going to do the assessment, and how you're going to do the update, and how you're going to do the feedback. This is a closed loop for sub bullets and the closed loop part. And then the other thing is like as Luis has already mentioned, there's some real case has been standardized. So I will just make it very short, very quick, and to give the unique and add-on part. So I'm not asking for a standalone part. I hope this can be included, because from my observation, the current case is more like abstract, or it's like a high-level description. Well, this is the real things. It's standardized. Okay. By the way, one requirement here is like the delay or networking metrics. The 3GPP, the 5G, the EH has accepted because there they consider that is a standardized thing. But for computing part, from the 3GPP point of view, we consider that one is not standardized. There are no standard way to say something. So that's why the CATS, the metric draft is very important. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, yeah, I think once we are there, I think Adrian is preparing just a quick poll so that we can see if people understand or if people agree to include, I would say, the essence of the use case in the working group document.
So there's a poll. If you don't understand the question, your answer is probably no opinion. There are some no's. If the no's want to explain why they think it's a bad idea, then go for it. All right, it seems to have stabilized. Oh, you see, as soon as you say it's stabilized, people vote.
That's why we need a closed loop control. So.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Okay, there are some people saying no, and I would like at least on the list those people who think that's not a good idea to cough up a reason. And then we'll try and take this forward. So we don't have a definitive yes at the moment.
Okay, sure.
Yes. So there are version drafts, so you can raise this question in the mailing list.
Okay, sure. Well do.
Okay, next. Well, you may also need to be quick.
Okay, sure. I think 1 minute is good enough. So the purpose of this draft is clarify the IETF use case. I think the current use case is good, but I try to clarify certain cases. So for the use cases are studied. Also, we published the IEEE transactions. So academia case we adopted. Next slide. So I clarified the 6 requirement for the use cases. So I hope this can help enhance in terms of CATS IETF use cases. Next slide. So the appendix we have, next slide, 4 use cases I described. I don't explain this one. We don't have enough time. So next slide. So especially the edge assisted cluster case, we need to consider so radio resource allocation in terms of channel and times also wired network computing. So we need to consider the network. The current the use case is over network delay, something like that. But we need to also consider wireless part, wired part, something like that. Next slide. So also the navigation case, it is a non-real time. So in that case, we can separate the 2 categories. One is real time, like autonomous driving scenario. The other one is navigation case, maybe non-real-time infotainment. So we considered 2 categories for ITS use cases. Next slide. So eventually, also we can consider the drone. Drone is on many the area peak, right? So we can consider terrestrial vehicle, also aerial vehicle together. That's it. Okay, thank you. So my desire is to try to merge and then try to clarify our current draft for in terms of IT. That is my purpose. Okay. That's sure. So do you have any question or comment?
I'm not sure I got actually the conclusion here. Does that mean that is there something that is specific that you will extract and put it into the current use cases draft or something else?
So I think the current draft case, the 2 love some the use cases. My draft, you can see each 4 use cases we publish IEEE transactions. It is good journal. So try to enhance. Maybe I can current draft I already summarized. Maybe the Kehan editor can take advantage of my text for enhance the ITS use cases.
Okay, so Kihan, please, as an editor of the use case, do you see how you can integrate some of, I would say, input from these use cases?
I mean, I'm not sure. I want you to go back to the requirement page. So I think where I see that, as you mentioned in the previous discussion about like R3, the proactive load balancing, I think it might be a like an enhancement to existing requirements. So maybe you can leave this for mainly discussion. But for there are like 4 use cases, but that we need to mention that we already have 5 use cases, and even that it's agreed that there will be another ongoing like CAS for Edge. So not too many use cases. We need to have agreement if they are aligned each other. So yes, thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so please, yeah, so I think the main comment is here is try to focus on the key ones, not every detailed use case, and then discuss with, I would say, at least between you and the authors of the CAS, and come to the mailing list to try to see how this is acceptable for the Congress.
Short to my comment. So my also another intention is ITS case we can apply CAT use case problem statement, also the framework. We try to make concrete CAT applicability. So maybe we can, if group has interest, we can continue to develop this draft as a applicability of a CAT for ITS.
Yeah, the only comment I can make here is that for the applicability, this is too early for us because we don't have a frozen framework yet.
Okay,
so this is something that can be happening in the future, later on. So please focus our energy on stabilizing the use cases and then the framework.
Okay,
so
great.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
One more comment. Please just pay attention to your requirement to runtime context migration because it's related to the service affinity. So you need to read the current working group document first and to think if they will be together or
try to enhance the current text. You here mentioned the proactive resource consideration should be done.
They may be different things.
Okay. Okay, I see. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So 3 chairs, but only 1 mic. Listen, I've now got really excited because I've worked out how to do polls. So I'm going to ask another simple one, which is just back to something that Kihan had with the change of the definition of computing service. And I wanted to see whether people are basically happy with that simpler definition that is in the 04 version. And again, if you weren't paying attention to his slides and you haven't looked at the draft, you might be in the wrong room and you have no opinion. Okay, that's probably enough to give me a feeling of some comfort. Again, the people who think this is wrong in some way, please kick up a fuss on the list because it's a working group document.
Okay, next is a framework. John, please.
Hello, Cheng Li from Huawei. So the topic today is about a framework update. So next, please. The agenda is mainly about 2 parts. The first one is about a change and a modification during the just after the previous meeting, and then we can discuss the next step. So I try my best to go through the change very quickly, and then we can leave some minutes for discussion. Yep. So this is a summary of the update from revision 2 to 3, right? We reorganize some items and we update some definitions. So please go ahead to read the document. If you have any comment, yes, please go to the mailing list. Yeah. And then we also update some, like section 3.4.1 to clarify the relation between, service side, service instance, and service contact instance. I have got some, questions regarding service contact instance. So if you might have some similar question, you can reach out to the mailing list as well, so that we can let all the people understand what exactly is service contact instance. Yep. And yes, yeah, we address several issues on the mailing list from Zhongpeng and other guys. Yeah. So I also make another revision to of the draft. So this is a summary from revision 3 to 4. And basically, we address the comment from two people. One is Dirk, and the other is Xinxin Yi. And Dirk, we add some, add some new terms to in the draft, like what is metric, right? And we also delete all the description regarding related to computing in the definition of CPS, the part selector, because for part selector, it should only do the selecting instead of computing. Yep. So that's the main update. And yes. So right now we still have like 8 open issues to be addressed, right? And we make a plan to address all the issues by the end of this year. And please help if you can. And if you have any comments, go to the list. Yep, thank you. So the next step is to address all the issues received, and then we should also add some text in the several sections to make it readable. Yep. And yes, the aim is to publish to submit the draft to working group LASCO in the first half next year. So we still have like 2 or 3, 4 months to get everything done before the working group LASCO. Yep. And yes, so open discussion. We have like mainly 3 topics remaining now. Like one is encrypted traffic, and then is instance affiliated affinity, right? And then if we have some new use case, like the new use case proposed by agent, we can have some discussion here. Thank you. That's it. So open discussion. Anyone?
Any comments on this?
Yep.
Sorry, working group, I'm too lazy to get up and walk to that microphone, but this is me, hat off. The new use case proposed by me, just so the working group understands, is something I've been hearing from several the sort of value-added content providers, and what they want to do is take a stream from a source and send it to a destination, but along the way they want to pick up a large-scale compute service. So this is not on-path microcompute that we have often seen and, for example, was discussed in CoinRG. This is a major processing of an end-to-end service along the path. And it turns out that our architecture in the framework document is very close to providing that, but doesn't quite do it. So I scribbled some ASCII art, and I probably need to take this better to the mailing list to work out how to include it.
Thank you. Yep.
Daniel King. So I apologize because I was sourcing a brownie, so I kind of missed the discussion. But what Adrian just alluded to there is a project that we're involved with. Nicholas Race, also at Lancaster's in the room here. And this was kind of highlighted 2 IETFs ago at one of the CAT sessions. It's a BBC object-based media application. So essentially you're transcoding or blending in specific content depending on who the user is, if it's sort of sight impaired, audio impaired, or some sort of regional content about the weather that needs some local information. So when we looked at the original CATS framework and some of the architecture, the compute sites were sort of at the end of your network graph, whereas with object-based media, it's going to be sort of along the path, and it may not be just one compute node that you need to kind of intersect. There may be multiple compute nodes, and we just kind of abstract a compute site as a node on the CATS graph. But earlier today, there was also some discussion in Scone, and this is another sort of interesting maybe CATS problem, because essentially it's a variable bit rate where you may have a high bandwidth bit rate that, as the network starts getting congested at some point along the way, you want to sort of further encode and optimize. So is there still time to sort of talk about modifying the architecture at this point?
It might be.
Yeah, I think so. I think as far as the document is stayed within working group, the document can be, I would say, modified, etc. But what we need is to have, I would say, a clear understanding of, I would say, the motivation and the purposes. So please feel free to send it to the mailing list and explain this so that people may have more details on what is happening there. But just one question: how this relates to Scone?
Well, I didn't attend Scone, but I heard that there was one of the use cases is a variable bit rate media stream. So I assume there's going to be some computational requirement, but maybe it's micro rather than macro.
Actually, no. I don't think that we will have discussion Scone here, but Scone is only about from the network to send some throughput advice to the, I would say, the host or the applications, and then the application to adjust their behavior based on that one. How do you compute, I would say, the throughput? All the machinery behind is really hidden. So I don't think that makes sense to connect it to what we are doing here in CATS.
Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, one question about student use case, because also remind me to the previous poll on the definition of the computing service, because you mentioned a new mode for CATS like in-network CATS, because you want to deploy this CATS ability, a compute ability on the path. So I'm not sure if the definition of the previous, like the very general one, is orchestrate like computing resources is a computing service. Because, for example, for the new use case like it's an on-path compute, is that a computing service, or like a computing service, or it's just within because the previous we add some complementary definition over the general one. We add like the computing service. It is different than the previous service on that. It needs to expose like application content or like a transaction based. So I think the difference should be mentioned here.
Yeah, let's do things in the right order. Understand first the use cases, the impact that we'll have, I would say, on the framework, and then if there's any implications on the definitions or restrictions, etc., we will work on those to relax them. But let's first do the understand the use case, and then how to modify the architecture.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Thank you, Kian.
TNG China Mobile. Some clarification question about the encrypted traffic. So in your mind, is that like some definite requirement in order to be included in the framework, or just like for discussion?
I would say it's for open discussion.
Yeah, because from our experience, for the cipher and non-cipher part, or from the experience on the mobile space, it's going to really open another dimension to impact your framework.
Yes.
Yeah, this is really something, I would just, try to give this comment. If you run the OpenNet, and your framework may get a lot of impacts.
It would be very complicated, but let's have some open discussion.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyone else? Oh, I say 4 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Shane.
So thank you. We move to next sessions. I think it's the metrics. You can control it by yourself.
Hi everyone, it's a session about computing matrix, CATS matrix, because it's a collaborative work with people from ops area and also CAS area. So we have defined like made agreement on defining this CAS matrix. So next slide, please. So why we need to define CAS matrix, because all the existing 5 use cases need both compute and network matrix for path and instance selection, but they cover different matrix categories. So we need an agreement on these CAS matrix and then to guide vendor implementations. So the basis for CAS matrix definition is based on the requirement draft, right? So so for the diagram illustration of the overall how to use this matrix, so how it is a closed loop matrix, we always need to understand.
Okay, Joe, do you want to ask now? Or
If you don't mind, I would like to ask right there, because I think that what you just said gets to a very basic question about what we want to do with metrics. It seems to me we have to, and I may be wrong, we need to design our metric content and distribution in such a way that it is usable for a broad range of use cases. I won't say every possible use case, but broad range, because if we want this to be deployable, you can't need to upgrade the edge device every time you have a new use case that you're supporting, because then every time you deploy a new use case, you have to upgrade every edge device. So it seems to me we need to focus on being quasi-generic. Now, whether that means a single generic metric, as Torles suggested, or a small set of generic metrics, compute processing time, etc., I don't know. But if we have to have different metrics for every use case, we're a comment on that before we get into the details of why define these specific metrics.
Hi, Joe. Thank you for a comment. I think we will present you and on the audience of we will, give a very generic matrix. We'll give a definition on the matrix. So thank you for a comment. Maybe we can go on. Yeah, thank you.
I would start with that rather than starting with the use cases. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So yes, so for the basis of the matrix requirements, and then we need to keep in mind that how we use them before we define them. So in terms of 5 major blocks, building blocks of the use of matrix, we need to collect a matrix collection. We need to think about what do we want to collect, like a raw matrix or the normalized matrix, like mentioned from Daniel, and also matrix selection by the CAS components. Do we want aggregating matrix, like in the current framework draft, there was a service contact instance aggregate matrix, or do we need all matrix? And then for matrix distribution, we need to think about how will the matrix be distributed? Will it, what the protocol it will be encapsulated, and will they incur much overhead, will impact the the stability of the routing behavior? And then for matrix assessment, if the select matrix are not useful, how to tune and update? So will the matrix be, will it be a nominal value, or will be a dynamic value that can be updated during the CATS service providing stage? So and for the last one, for the matrix update, so can the matrix be updated? So if so, what's the duration? The set duration for matrix to be updated. So based on this, so we need to think about, next stage is to think about how we can define this CAS matrix. So here are some previous work, like this one from Auto, RFC 9439. It's a really good example to show. Auto is defining some network performance metric like delay, jitter, packet loss rate, and for it's for network capability exposure to applications. It does not touch compute resources and relative matrix. So in this RFC, for each metric, it defines the following fields like basic identifier, value representation, and its semantics, and some context. So cost context, it includes the source of the matrix. It means that where you can, get the matrix and then some statistical values. So it has basic 3 types of sources, like nominal. It means that the matrix is statically configured by the underlying devices. For example, the bandwidth. And SLA, it means matrix is derived from some commitment. And estimation means the matrix is computed through an estimation process. And then there are some like main, max, median, and statistics. And then based on this, we have made a good reference, and then we further design CAS matrix. And so it has some basic fields like a matrix type. It will describe what the matrix is. And then the network device can recognize it based on this basic type. And then the unit is for quantitatively counting the matrix. And the format, like integer or other format, for accurately describing a matrix. And bits occupation, it means how many bits it will need to carry the matrix in a packet. And then the score, it means a unitless value to representing the matrix. It's just for the normalized matrix. And then the source of the CAS matrix will further divide them into 3 subcategories, like the matrix is directly measured matrix. For example, the raw matrix with values, and then like aggregated matrix, like it is aggregated like in a CAS a service contact instance, and then sent into the decision maker. And then the normalized matrix, it may have some physical meanings, but it does not have any values. So it's a basic, at least some basic fields for CAS matrix. So then we have defined a 3-level CAS matrix framework. Here is a hierarchical view of the CAS matrix. So level 1 is the raw matrix. They have physical meanings as well as units, like GPU frequency, memory bandwidth. There are lots of SDOs, other SDOs have defined this raw matrix. So a raw matrix might not be carefully designed in this draft. We just want to show some example for the further derivation of level 1 matrix. CAS matrix is some normalized matrix in categories, like for example, for computing, for networking, for storage, or for delay, you need to normalize into a value and then or a set of values, but they are representing different categories. And then in the top level, level 2, all of these different level 1 and level 0 matrix will be finalized, normalized into a single value. So based on some cost for each value. So this is a hierarchical view for the CAS matrix. So, and then here are some basic representation examples for how we define this level 0 matrix. So for example, like computing a compute raw matrix, the basic fields, like you can name it, give it a name for the type of the matrix, and the format of the compute raw matrix will be like an integer or floating point, or it will occupy like 4 octets. And sorry, I think I made a mistake in the score because it has a unit. Level 0 does not have a score for normalized matrix. We can apply them with different scores. And then for computing raw matrix might have also has some special field. For example, like CPU, it has some associated like frequency unit, like measured in gigahertz, and also compute capabilities units like flops, floating point operations. In the source of the matrix, is directly measured, and you can also apply them with different statistics. And then for level 1 matrix, we have different categories: compute, network, and storage. So it will be denoted with different types. And then the format will be integer, and it does not have a unit, but needs like it has a random score, a score or a set of scores representing its performance of the matrix. And then for the level 2 CAS matrix representation, will finally normalize into a single value without any physical meaning or unit, because we want it to be simple and easy to implement implement for the network devices and not incur much overhead, not only for the processing in the CAS ingress, for example, for CAS path selector, and also don't impact the overall stability of the routing behavior. So here is a basic representation of level 2 matrix. For example, also have some basic fields, and also it has a score that representing its performance, and then the source will be normalized. So it is a basic, hierarchical view of the 3 levels of CAS matrix. So we also compare them from different, aspects like encoding complexity, extensibility, and stability, and also accuracy. So can see from this table here, different levels have some pros and cons. But for implementation guidance, like level 1, level 2, and also some level 1 matrix are recommended for implementation. Level 0 matrix might be too complex to be encapsulated in the protocols. And I think this has already been agreed in previous discussion. Okay, this is my part. And next will be Louis to talk about their part. Okay, any question here, maybe?
Okay. We have, yeah, please.
Ketan Talaulikar, Cisco. So you mentioned these are to be encoded in the protocol, right? So what's the conclusion so far? Is it the level 2 part that we are looking at?
Yes.
Is that the recommendation?
Yes, level 2 will be first choice to recommend to be encapsulated into a protocol because of its simplicity.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. If you go to the previous slide, please. So here the score, is that the actual metric value that we are talking about?
Yes, it's for example, score 1 to 5 representing the performance of instance that you want to select. For example, 5 representing the compute instance is very good, has some very good quality, and 1 maybe is representing the instance not good to be chosen. Yeah.
And any discussion or analysis on how this, along with existing, this metric aligns with existing routing metrics? Is that something that the working group is looking at?
Okay, I think it's really a good comment because in order to encapsulate CAS matrix into the protocol, we need to coordinate with other existing routing matrix. So maybe if you want, you can leave it as a message into the list, and we'll
Sure.
in the next stage. Thank you.
Okay, sure. And the last bit I'll share is that in protocols, we have now defined something called a generic metric.
Generic, okay.
Yeah. So if we do come up with something, that may be an option to consider.
Thank you for information. Thank you.
Chun-Li from Huawei as another, I think we still have some work to do because we have received some comments and we have to address them as soon as possible. So we will publish new revision as soon as possible, and we welcome others to review the documents to contribute together. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, Hao-Man from Huawei, a clarification question on the different levels. If I understand correctly, the translation between the different levels is only unidirectional. Means, for example, if we normalize from level 0 and get to level 1, we will lose the raw data from level 0. Is that the right understanding?
Yes, because all of this part I think will be done on the compute side. For example, you want to give some weighted cost to each raw matrix and then normalize it unidirectionally, and then normalize to a single value in level 2, and then the value will be passed to like a CAS component for decision making. So I think as you mentioned, some of the previous knowledge of the level 0 matrix might be lost during the process because it does not need it for path selection, especially for the CAS ingress.
Yeah, if that is the case, I would suggest we need to be very careful because 10 years ago, when we start a kind of abstraction control of the network, we got this kind of lossy information and try to make it compacting. But after that, we find that we finally need to go to some raw data because of some detailed measurement need. For example, diagnosis and other stuffs. We need to accurately recognize which part there is a problem. So the raw data will be still necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Don't only use high level.
Daniel Huang, ZTE. The general framework of the document about service metric is good, I think. But I would suggest the same the metric definition that aligns with the outing process, as Ketan suggested, because it would benefit significantly from perspective and traffic steering of CATs.
Yeah, okay, great. So, comment from the...
Yeah, so Jordi, also to follow up on Hao-Mian's comment, yeah, I think the idea about this approach is that we want to start with, so we have a goal, which is to reach the milestone for March 25 with the metrics and document for CATs. So we have to be very specific to achieve that goal. And we want to begin with to have a metric that is generic and easy, scalable, and easy to have just a single score. So that's the idea of level 2. But at the same time, the model that Kehan and the group is presenting, as you can see, has several layers. So if you ever had to go down a level, you could still do that. So for now, for CATs, because CATs is running in real time these metrics, we want something scalable. So you would probably focus on level 2. But in the future, we may also look at problems. We have a draft on that, on not just the selection, but the deployment case. And so the deployment use case, so deploying the service, not selecting the service, but deploying the service, is something that is a one-time thing, right? It's not real time. You do it once, it's deployed, and then now you start using it. Because it's a one-time thing, so it may be affordable to go to level 0 to get those metrics. And you may want to do that because it's a one-time decision. You want to be very good at making that decision. So a level 2 metric, like you say, may not be enough. You want something more concrete, right? So I think the model idea is that for now, we need to be very focused to achieve the milestone. And for CATs, we think that level 2 is ideal. But it allows us to scale wherever we need to support additional use cases that we could also support level 0 in the future. But for now, let's focus on level 2. I think that's how we think about it.
Yeah. Okay. So,
okay, thank you. So next,
yes, please. Sorry.
I think maybe.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Kehan. Yeah. So, okay, Kehan has commented about the direction, let's say, what is the goal. So I will comment a little bit what will be the steps for reaching that goal. So the chairs incentivize us, the authors of the 2 drafts that you can see there, to collaborate and try to find a common way of advancing on the topic of the metrics. So the starting point, as said, are these 2 documents. The CATS metric description and the joint exposure of network and compute information for infrastructure-aware service deployment. So the main objective that we basically pursue is to cover the CATS milestones. So the milestone from March 2025 of adopting a document describing the CATS metrics, and that the focus would be to follow this model that Kehan just presented, and also accomplish the other one in 1 year after, about the approval of the document. So the general approach would be basically to work on unifying the work of these 2 drafts, focusing first on the CAS topic, but we will comment at the very end the detailed plan on this. Should if I may work. Okay, so the general problem space when we consider the metrics about compute is the different service life cycle stages, the service deployment, the service selection, and the service assurance. This is related to what Jordi was just saying. So probably for the different stages of the service life cycle, we need different granularity on the metrics. Our idea by now would be to focus on the service selection that is related to the CATS program space, so the steering of the traffic for specific service instances. So the idea is to cover the rows identified as 2.A and 2.B, and leaving, let's say, for working later on the two other service stages, the service deployment and the service assurance. Also, in the effort working for the service selection, we will identify some metrics, and we will need to realize if those metrics are sufficient as well for the service deployment and the service assurance or not. But that would be, let's say, a later stage. The idea, as said, is to concentrate on service selection, to work in this in the model presented by Kehan, and identify the metrics that could assist on that service selection. So the problems are two in this respect: the definition of the metrics themselves, and also the consideration of the protocol to expose those metrics. Again, here in these two problems, there could be separated actions. So the point is to pursue the definition of the metrics first, and later on, as a work, a part of the definition of the metrics, to work on the way in which we could expose those metrics to the consumers of them. I will not. Well, this was already presented by Kehan, so probably not worthy to go into detail. But just for refreshing, we were talking about level 0 metrics, level 1 and level 2. There will be different ways of aggregating information. And as said again by Jordi, depending on the use case, probably we could move in this model up or down. So depending on the specific needs. For the steering, we will concentrate on layer 2 metrics. So basically understanding what could be the pathway for having this aggregation that could be meaningful for the selection of the path, and yeah, basically for going to a specific service function instance. The problem for the definition of the interfaces, here in the framework document, there are the different possibilities. We have the distributed approach, the centralized approach, the hybrid approach, probably depending on the specific metric, maybe one model or the other could be much more convenient. For the decentralized approach, probably one way to follow would be to leverage on protocols like BGP. There are two documents now presenting related solutions, the CATS BGP extension and the 5G Edge service metadata. For the centralized approach, other protocols like Alto or YAM models or so could be defined. As said, this work will be, we will not concentrate on this now. We will concentrate on the other work of defining the metrics. And later on, once the metrics are somehow solid, we will go to the way of exposing them. So the very last slide about the proposed roadmap, the proposed plan. So we do foresee three documents, the need of three documents. One document focusing on the metrics definition. So this idea of the levels, the scoring, all this schema that was presented by Kehan. That would be the document trying to address the milestone in the CATS charter. Then probably a second document could be one or more than one could be required for the exposure of the metrics. Here would be the different options, the BGP, the Alto, the YAM model, or whatever. Also with the with the purpose of exposing, so that can be consumed, the metrics by the entity that could require that, by our entity or component. And finally, another potential document that could be the one describing the overall global picture, so all the service lifecycle stages, the deployment, the assurance, and also the selection, but the selection making reference to all the work of CATS. And there will, I mean, it's future work, so let's see if there is something that could be actually different from the work done for the definition of the metrics or not. And let's see what could be the home for that, CATS or OPSO. Well, this is, as said, future work, so let's see in the future. So summarizing, technical approach, metric definition document based on draft YSL CATS metric definition. So working on the metrics level abstraction, then documents, potential more than one, about metric exposure. Here we can consider on-path, off-path solutions, YAM models, I mean, whatever kind of solution that could be convenient from the perspective of the working group. And then the final document, informational about all the service lifecycle stages, in case that is justified because there is something different from the work that we can cover on the first document. And that's all from our side.
Yeah, so thank you, Luis. I don't have an issue with this breakdown, but I think there's a timeline missing from this picture. And the point is that the first of these documents, the one with the milestone, is in charter for cats and is something we absolutely must do. The second one, well, you're all engineers and I can't stop you writing drafts, but the discussion on the mechanisms and the protocols is not in charter in cats, actually not in charter in any other working group either, and highly dependent on the first document. So it would be very premature to start picking your favorite protocol and pushing it, and you will give people heart attacks if you start saying, we're going to use BGP for this, before we say what this is. And the third document, although it already exists, you're quite right to say it's dependent back on the other work. You can't make a cookbook until you worked out what ingredients you've got. So there is a dependency and a timeline associated, and it would be really appreciated if everybody put their effort into the first one now to make space to be able to do the other ones.
Thanks. Yeah, this is the plan. So we will concentrate on the first ballot and leave the other for future work. Thank you.
Okay. No one in the queue, so. Thank you, please.
Level 0, level 1, level 2, and also you're using the GPA system here. Now, just to remind me of something like you have the level 0 part is quite pretty objective. But when you using the GPA analogy, and it's like each school can inflate it or deflate based on their own criteria. So nowadays, if you have the objective level 0 and you're trying to normalize to subjective level 1, actually that is a problem I have described in my use case. Because in the 5G use case, originally we did try to consider both the compute and networking metrics. But the networking metrics like delay is very objective. So everyone agree on that part. But for the compute, and then we have a lot of argument about, okay, how to objectively measure it so that everyone will reach a consensus easily. So that is, the things, just remind me. Yeah, so also, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, just to conclude, I would say the discussion. So what I heard so far is that the two teams will be working on a new edition of the draft, which is draft key ES, and then come to the working group that you have at least implemented what you discussed and what you presented to us. For us, I think the next point for us is to consider adoption for it. And the other documents, we won't put any priority on them, right? We progress on that one. Is that the plan? Okay, so yeah. So looking forward to see the next version of the draft and move forward. Thank you all.
Thank you for the, okay. Charlie, okay. So we have the time that we can move to the last part. As about the teasers, we will have 6 drafts, but please keep the points. And the first one thing will be Yu Fu, right?
I'm Yu from China Unicom. First, I want to clarify the questions from the mailing list. That is, this work is not in the CAS charter, but we think that we may, the charter of the CAS, the last paragraph said that this work is a study, a security study from the CAS framework. So think that is maybe a very initial work for the CAS framework and architecture. We made some security considerations for the CAS architectures. So the first, we think that this CAS working group enhanced the potential security vulnerabilities from the network and computing service, as well as the some workflows from the CAS. So this documents analyzes some various security analysis, threats, and also security considerations related to the CAS and existing approaches for the some threats. So updates from the presentation from the 120 IETF meetings presentation, some updates in this draft, some updates from this draft is that the first one is the security issues of the computing service. The first one, we think that the computing, the security of the computing service should be carried out using the technology such as the security log management and institution detection to monitor the security status of the computing service. I think that the next presentation will introduce some solutions for the monitoring I think the status of the computing service, and also the security solutions of CAS may support dynamic and also the authentication and the cross control against the possible attacks to the computing service. The second issues may be the computing service announcement security issues. We think that the computing service ID should be configured as the confidential of the service, and also the name resolution service of the computing service IDs may support access control for certain name mapping records. And also we think that the authentication of the computing service that want to be registered with the naming resolution service must be required, so that only authenticated entities can store and update name mapping records. The third computing, I think the third security issues may be the we think maybe the middle attack of the computing path selectors service and request or the response. And also some, we think that the denial of service attacks on the computing path service communication mechanism may be considered. So therefore that we think that computing path service solutions that address these issues in the detail using the authentication and the security techniques are also expected. That's all. Thank you. So maybe we think that it is very initial analysis for the in the CAS working group. So more comments are welcome. Thank you.
So I've got a question for you before you run away. So the substance of your draft is quite small. It's 2 pages, and that's great. Is there any reason why you need a separate draft, or can we fold this into the framework as part of the bigger picture?
Oh, yes, because we have a revised presentation in the main list, but this one is the older version. So we in the new version we have put the architecture in the presentation.
Yeah, sorry, that's not my question. Is can we take your work and put it in the CATS framework document, and then and then finish with your draft because it's all in the framework?
Okay. I can put it in the framework security consideration part.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm asking. If we, because the framework isn't a working group document.
Yeah.
I would like us to adopt your ideas and your text and move that into the framework. Is that okay?
Because I think that the consideration session in the every working group or every FC is the we think is the normal work for the every FCs. But in this draft, we think maybe very detailed and very, I think, large work in the analysis, and also maybe we think potential work after this draft, maybe some security solutions may be proposed to resolve the analysis or the attacks. So I'm not sure maybe it's in the working group the working group draft, the security consideration part maybe is not not enough, or not very or maybe not enough sections for analysis, because we first analysis the attack for the architecture, and then we think we may propose some solutions to resolve the analysis the attacks. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Claire. We should give some space to the next people.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Julian, in the queue, please.
Yeah, regarding the straight adoption of this document and inclusion in the framework, I'm a bit concerned because I see at the moment the necessity of a security consideration section, but it should mainly focus on the threats that we see to the to the framework that is being done. Here, I see some solution aspects like identity authentication that broaden the problem very significantly. And I think we need to remain simple, at least for the moment, because otherwise we're going to boil the ocean with different types of security solutions. This is not what we need now.
So don't worry. So I think solutions across the board are not what we're working on yet, but you're right. The framework needs to actually understand the big picture security issues.
Yes, and it needs to be simple to start with so that we can make an inventory of the threats to start with. I think this document is already too complex to be included in the framework.
Yeah, some very quick feedback for your comments. Yeah, we also think that this document is very too complex to include in the architecture document, but we also think that it is very initial work for the security analysis for the framework. So we think that is a very long work for the analysis. Yeah.
I think something which might be doable would be taking inspiration from your document to create the security consideration section.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you. We move to the next one. Meeting, please. I think it's also about the security.
Okay, Mei Chen from China Mobile is also a new draft that concern about security programs. So we concern about the compromised or malicious computing resources or computing service. So these threats will be threat the user's data, something like the data of users can be stolen, or the computing outcomes or outputs of the service may be changed or compromised by the attackers. So towards these security programs, we try to carry out the mechanisms. So this new draft proposal mechanism that promotes security of service and resources in CAS. It's about monitoring security status of the computing resource and select more security computer resource for service. It can be divided into three parts. The first one, collect the security information of computing resource, almost about two parameters. The first one is security capability information. The second one is the security status information. And second one, within the security information, we can generate security policies. maybe we can add a new component for correcting and access security information. That's something like the solutions or algorithms can be used to count the scores or any other solution like that. Then with the security policy, we can adjust the service decision-making policy. We have to mention that the CPS can or other components that are responsible for the service decision-making. In this draft, I think it's something like the metric. Maybe the metric level 0 parameters can also contain the security informations. Thank you, that's all. Any comments? I think I have seen several seconds.
Okay, no one in the queue. So the same comments with the previous one that you talk about the security aspects. So you can abstract some of your problem or requirement and contribute to the framework or the working group document first.
Okay.
And it's better to control the rhythm or steps to for your individual draft, I think. Jordan, please.
If I'm not mistaken, this document is actually proposing to introduce a new kind of metric for selection of the instances based on security policy. So this is going in several directions. It is almost a new use case, and it might impact the metric document.
If you can, we want to add a new parameter in the metric.
Yeah, you can also work
I don't want it. I'm observing that you're trying to make selection based on security considerations from the services. And so if you want to do that, it has to go in the metrics. Otherwise, there's no selection possible.
That's okay, we can. Maybe we can talk. Okay, let's make explanations for your question. That I'm not sure that is in, because the first answer is my colleague, so we can talk more about your advice in the mail list or to my emails.
Yes,
it's okay.
We can't get the conclusion now that if this metric, but you can work with the metric teams with the draft. So thank you. And next one, Cheng Li.
And as Cheng comes up, I'm just going to say, this is a protocol extension. This is a flash presentation. Cheng Li is making people aware of his work. He is not at the moment trying to push it into CATS.
Yeah. So first of all, this is not a CATS draft. It's an IDR draft. So it's not within the CATS scope. Just let you know that we have something to do in other working group. So we propose a new draft called a CATS PGP extension in the IDR working group. Basically, we define two modes in that draft. First one is the basic mode, and then the second one is sharing mode. For the basic mode, we basically reuse the extension in an existing working group document, which is the IDR 5G Edge services. That document would be like published as obviously by the end of this year or early next year. So nearly done, right? For the second part, it's about the sharing mode. That one is in very early stage, just for open discussion. So if you like to have some discussion, please go to review the document and let's have some discussion. Yep, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, I think the remaining drafts are all of yours. Three drafts.
Yeah.
8 minutes, split it how you like.
Yes. And it's about solutions to which should not be in the scope of CATS charter, but I believe it could be useful inputs for the framework as well as requirements for some description text update. I'll be quick. The first one, actually, what I'm trying to highlight in the slide is problems, issues arising from perspective, the CATS implementation. So the first one is about the flow-based node balancing. So when we're talking about CAS traffic steering, what we're actually talking about an important scenario where the node balancing happens. So traditionally, there will be quite frequent control plane operations from which will add to a CPU node. So the solution design the methodology is the CPS, what we value is to the SLA per service ID, I mean the CSID. So we'll select important services, and the ingress cast forwarder or the hashes to the 5 tuples attributes, identifies the next hop, obtains the SR policy and the service ID. So you can see that at the right and left of the two tables, so we can allocate the traffic among multiple equivalent computing service instances to which specified the node sharing ratio. Please, next slide, please. Yeah. About OEM, yes. I strongly believe we need to at least mention OEM CAS, because we are talking about traffic steering based on the combination of networking and computing metrics. We're actually talking about the measurements of the performance. So the draft employed a hierarchical OEM which involved 3 parts. The first one is the OEM, the service instance OEM, which covers from the egress cast forward to the service instances. And the second one is the traffic classifier OEM, which starts from the ingress cast forward to the specific service instances. So the next one is actually to the end of the active flow OEM. Yeah, that's it. Next slide, please. And it comes to the service metric. Actually, this is a demonstration of materialized solution of the service metric mentioned by Kehan in the requirements documents. And but the important issue right here is that when we're talking about the aggregation of service metrics, the loop could happen. So the two cluster of CAS tables will be employed to prevent loops. The first one will be both tables will be indexed by the service ID and the computing service ID. But when it comes to next hop, which will be different from each other. For the global CAS table, it's the egress CAS forward, and for the local table, CAS table is actually the next hop will be the specific computing service instance. So that's how the loop prevention happens. That's all. Thank you.
Luis?
Yes, quick question here. It's very interesting, this OIM stuff and so, but here the responsibilities for operation and maintenance are divided between the entities controlling the cloud environment and the entities controlling the network. This has several complexities, for instance, the time reference in order to associate the values of the problems in CPU or problems in the path. So I understand that the idea here would be to expose OIM information to the users of the function and so, but I cannot understand what would be in case we need to fix something, who would have the responsibility of fixing the, I don't know, whatever problem in the CPU or in the virtualized infrastructure or in the network. Somehow probably there will be some decouple actions, no, depending on who manage who manage which resource. So I didn't read the draft, but probably something interesting to work on would be on how, once we detect a problem, how to fix the problem. What would be the necessary steps, or which entities should activate some correction to the service?
Yeah, actually, as a draft law, you can see, please go back to the OEM slide. Yeah, it's simply a hierarchical architecture rather than a specific solutions and how it is implemented. But I would say when talking about particularly the measurement, the OEM measurement, the service side it's a responsibility of the service provider rather than yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But there's something here now that's making me think. Our requirements document is not talking about OEM.
Yeah.
And it should do. Yeah. So, hello, requirements document editors. We need something in there about OEM, generally manageability of the system. We do not need to put the architecture that's proposed here into that, but we do need to be nailing down what we expect to be able to see in an operating CAT system. So if you can at least put in placeholders so that other people can suggest text, that would be cool.
Yeah, thanks. Actually, I will talk to the authors of requirements, and then I would like to suggest some text.
Great. We've got 30 seconds left. Who wants to use it? We've got 25 seconds left. Who wants?
I'm sorry, just sorry for jumping in and without raising my hand. Julian's comment reminds me about the matrix definition and also the matrix scopes. So I want to trigger a discussion in the list that should we define like a compute matrix or matrix at compute side, because I see that the drop from mailing is like a security matrix like compute side, or even like there are other drops like gray matrix like compute side. Are they like will be included in the compute side matrix, or should we just define compute matrix? So I want to trigger this discussion of the list. Thank you.
Good, do it. Thank you. We're on time. We're finished. Thank you very much. As usual, there was much better work in the meeting than there is on the mailing lists, and that both makes me quite happy and really depressed. So please try to work on the list as well in between meetings.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would just never say use this part, but then okay. Yeah, good discussion. I think better than yeah. Structure requirement for the meetings. Yeah, I think I